You're gonna hate leaving, aren't you?
I am gonna miss it. Still miss the summers. The winters, they're okay. But they don't have as fun of a job. Usually I'll work at one of the local restaurants.
Right.
Substitute teaching at the high school. So yeah, this job is kind of the reason I came up here and stuck around here.
Where were you before Alaska?
I grew up in New Jersey.
Oh, really? Well, we're originally from outside of Philly.
Oh, nice.
So spent plenty of time down at Seaside growing up.
Yeah.
And
That's where I went after
great
my
adventure.
senior-
Yep. Oh yeah, Six Flags there all the
Great
time.
adventure. We were always there. We were dating.
Ancient times.
Yeah.
I guess that was, what, 5 years ago?
83.
So you folks have kind of been busting around. I'm sure you've noticed lots of these dead spruce trees that we have up here. This is a good example of one back there. Basically a spruce beetle, which is, it's not invasive, it is a native bug species, but we just had a couple summers back just the wrong conditions for the trees. So it's a very mild winter, which didn't really kill off enough of the beetles.
Mm.
Very dry summer, which made the trees very weak and susceptible. So the beetles just had a field day with that. Now we used to have a lot of dead ones hanging around, and no one really gets out here to cut them down. So they just linger. They're a bit of a fire hazard for sure. But you know, if people have them on their property, they'll definitely cut them down. They make great firewood. But out here, they just hang around. You'll see some spots where it's just like the whole forest is dressing up with all these people. Sometimes that's nature's plan. But when they first pop up, and they're still only an inch or two tall, they're all still curled up and they look like the head of a fiddle. And that's when people will harvest them and then make for a tasty little snack. You can saute them with some garlic and olive oil or pickle them. The local pizza place had that as a topping you could add on for a while. But by this point, a lot of them have gotten too tall, so you can't harvest them anymore. They'll get to be like 5 or 6 feet tall by the end of the season. So it's like Jurassic Park.
Does any of the wildlife like covet that at all, or?
Not that I'm aware of. I think, you know, a lot of them, like the moose and the beavers, they like to eat the smaller willows and alder trees. I know there's a guy up here who has a farm with a bunch of cows and cows. He's mentioned really like to eat the fiddleheads. But I do believe once they get that tall that they actually develop some like arsenic in them or something. If they're supposed to eat them once they're above a certain height. So yeah, there's lots of things to forage for out here. We get a lot of wild blueberries growing out around the lakes, or the occasional wild raspberry bush, you know where to look. Further south, they also have salmon berries, which is kind of like a orange colored raspberry. It's quite tasty. Oh,
It's like a vulture.
The osprey? Yeah, you might be right. I've only seen them like maybe one in this area a couple of seasons ago, but that is definitely a possibility. Yeah, it could be right. The juvenile eagles, I think once they reach about 4 years old is when they get their white and colored hood, but before that they're just kind of all speckled and brown and gray. Let them blend in a bit better. You'll occasionally see golden eagles in this area as well. They're a bit more rare. Yeah, that's definitely how you can really tell when summer has hit. All the birds are go back up again. Got a family of trumpeter swans that are back in the neighborhood. They're always really pretty to see.
Hmm.
And if you're downtown, you'll notice all these smaller birds, the swallows that are fluttering about. Emerald swallows. They're really great. Everyone loves them because they eat a ton of mosquitoes. Yeah, so you see lots of people put up little birdhouses on the side of their homes or their businesses to encourage the swallows to stick around.
So when it's sunny out, how bad are the mosquitoes on this trip?
You know, when you're on the moving water, the mosquitoes don't bother you.
Oh, okay.
But there are some calmer side channels we'll pull off into, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're just swarmed by them. But it's different every year, you know, it's been a bit of a cold spell, so maybe that's gonna tamper down the mosquitoes, but it's also been very wet, which
Yeah.
gives them good breeding grounds. We'll see how the rest of the season shapes up. Yeah, they can be real nasty. From there, that way they can then go chew off little branches that they like. So they can make that tree fall exactly where they want to. Imagine that they have their lodge kind of down this calmer side channel. Authentic Alaskan weather though.
Yeah.
Further bouncing into a little car, unlock button sound. I was up and inspirating on it.
Will any part of this freeze in the wintertime?
Oh yeah. This whole thing freezes over enough you could like drive a car on it.
It does. Okay, that's why I was wondering. Because my mom did this trip probably 20 years ago, and the only moose they saw was one that had frozen and was thawed out in the middle of the river.
So real quick, if I take a look on this right side, there's a beaver dam right back in there you can see.
Wow.
Yeah, the water's super high. So the moose is frozen in the river.
It had frozen over the winter and then it was thawing out. So that's they like she took a picture of it right in the middle of the
Yeah. I mean, that's not the
something wrong with him.
Yeah, not the ideal animal sighting you want to have. Sometimes, right, there'll be a dead moose or animal on the side, and always debating like, point that out for the pet.
Right.
Yeah, the moose, they'll go just about anywhere. Especially in the winter, they're always trying to get out of the deep snow, so that's often you
No.
see a lot of them around the roadways, which can get dangerous, especially with how dark it is. You know, you gotta be vigilant. So crash into one, just that will wreck your car.
Yeah.
How small they are, it's like drive into it, the whole mass of it's like coming right through the windshield.
Right.
Yeah, this section that we're on has lots of room to spread out, so on average probably 5 or 6 feet, but they can change real quick. Next thing you know, it's in like a foot deep of water, or some of these outer cut banks might get up to 10 feet, but yeah, for the most part, this one's pretty shallow. Right at the end of our trip, we are going to merge with 2 other major rivers. And we're going to go through the confluence where all 3 of these rivers come together. And that spot is about 40 to 50 feet deep. And then it kind of spreads back out again in the shallow. Okay, sunken pirate ship coming up here kind of.
Yeah.
Getting big old cottonwood too. Yeah, most of the debris and the obstacles in this river are just trees that get washed out and hung up in the river somewhere. You do see those trees kind of play a part in shaping these waterways, get enough of them piled up in one spot, and it starts to create a whole new little island.
Yeah.
Lots of little changing, maybe 6 foot in the same water twice. You folks done the cruise yet, or is that
No, it's coming up Saturday
where you're catching the boat?
in Whittier. Yeah, we have to go to Denali Lodge tomorrow,
Nice.
and then you get that 9-hour train ride all the way back.
Yeah. Long ride, but the train is such a great way to see, a little bit off
Yeah.
the beaten path. To see a lot of Whittier is a super interesting town as well. Kind of a former military base, so there's just this one big apartment building where everyone in the town lives.
Yeah.
And that's about it in town there. It's kind of like this weird post-apocalyptic looking dystopia. And then there's only the road in through this tunnel. They only have traffic going one way at a time, so you got to sit there and wait for them to switch it around for you. Yeah, Talkeetna is certainly a small town, but even though berries, and they grow in abundance. Most of these plants around here are hybrid cranberry plants. Those ones you wouldn't want to eat though because they are from last year, so they probably turned a bit. But we'll be getting some new fresh ones in here any week now. They are super tart, just like a cranberry, so the animals don't really like them, but humans will harvest them. Maybe you'll mix them in with some other berries, make a little jam or jelly. I had one client who suggested that they go great in a cocktail, which I've yet to try. And you'll also see in here, there's some of these kind of white stalks. They're kind of dead that are popping up.
Mm-hmm.
That is from the cow parsnip. And that plant is not to be trifled with because you get the sap on your skin, you go out in the sun, it's going to cause like a nasty 3rd-degree burn type of rash.
Oh wow.
They kind of look like a big version of Queen Anne's lace, if you're familiar with that plant.
Mm-mm.
These little side tunnels are fun to explore, especially if you're in a smaller boat, like a little kayak or a pack raft.
Yeah.
We could go up this thing for another 2 hours. And not hard to go up. Never reach the end, but it's kind of part of a network of these little side panels that merge back in with the main river. A lot of it's just from, again, local rain runoff or natural springs feeding into it. Yeah, it's quite nerve-wracking though when you're out there in this narrow channel and you start to hear some big footprints coming through the woods or some growling and you're like, okay, let's go. Yeah, here's another fun plant. You'll see, point the nose of the boat right at it. We have this very spiky plant here right at the front of the boat. And that's the Devil's Club. And yeah, you don't want to get those thorns in here because they can cause a pretty bad irritation, a bit of inflammation. But the root of that plant is also harvested by people and it's used to make lots of salves and ointments. It's very good for like dry, cracked skin and whatnot. Also, if you can grab the leaves, similar to the ferns, if you grab the buds before they all bloom out into leaves, you can pick those up. They go really well. Sauteed with some garlic. Yeah, just a couple weeks ago I came back here and noticed someone had set up a beaver trap, a little beaver snare. It's now no longer there, so I imagine hopefully they caught themselves a beaver. kept going back there, being nervous that we just find a dead beaver sitting there. Sage. So you probably heard about the cat that we have as a mayor. Yeah, which is also a bit controversial because there wasn't any election for that cat. It just took office, and so that rubbed some people the wrong way. And so this is also more of a dog town. So yeah, they want their dog to run for mayor.
If there is absentee ballots, we're going to vote for Wendell.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Wendell as well. He's a good boy. A huge part of life up here in Alaska is all the bush planes, the small planes. It's kind of just wide enough for some people to drive their four-wheeler or their ATV across it. They recently renovated it, made it a little bit narrower. Now some people can't get their four-wheelers across, which is tricky for those people with those remote cabins out there. And just last week, someone couldn't get their four-wheeler across, and so they decided to drive it on the tracks. And they were halfway across the bridge when the train was coming, and this guy had to jump off of his four-wheeler and ditched it, left it there. The train crashed right into it. Everyone was fine and safe. This four-wheeler is certainly not, but yeah. You can see along these banks how the river definitely does get a bit higher. It kind of erodes some of these outer banks here. Usually if one side's steep cut off, then you have kind of a much more smooth, shallow bank on the other side of the river. And way over there on the left, where all the jet boats have their docks. Got the Mahays sightseeing tours. They got some of the biggest boats in this area on the waterways. Well, the big one doesn't go up to Talkeetna, it's a little too big for that. We'll go up the other two rivers. Oh, little duck mallard there. These little straps hanging down off of the truck. Trying to dodge those. Down to the Antarctic every year on a round trip and make a big trip. But yeah, that's a small bird. They make a super long journey. We're in the middle, and Denali would be on the right. Aren't they majestic?
I can almost picture it. Geez, that would be an amazing view.
It's almost like a better view from here where you're a bit further back versus when people drive like up towards Denali. Eventually you can't see them anymore. Kind of like
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going through this confluence now, and it should still be smooth, but it is technically the most turbulent, wildest part of our trip. This is a precautionary measure. If for any reason it feels like, part of the boat is sucked down into the water, I give you the instruction to lean in. Just try to get low and as centered as you can in the boat. But we haven't been having any issues. Thought about that in our back pocket in case. all these rocks here piled up on the bank because the river does keep trying to wash away the town. So they come up and pile more rocks up each year. And it's not even, it's not like you'll see on ocean banks where it's like water levels are rising. It's really natural that a river will kind of ebb and flow and shift from side to side over time. So it's pushing towards town and past the ocean.
Oh, right? No, they're on the big one. They're on the gorge.
You can see here the way the water moves. Tipped out, and it was quite harrowing, but it was funny that there was like 20 tourists standing along here just watching me like swim for my life. Everything worked out fine though. Yeah, that definitely gave me a feeling that day. But luckily we're
Denali
right there.
right there.
Yeah, it's really just that one section where all three of those rivers are coming right through. And then it immediately starts to spread back out again. More braids and different channels. You know, this bank gets eroded, but actually the other side, you're getting silt deposited over there. So there's like a little beach that goes on for about a mile until the tree line. That's seagull territory. When they go over there, they get very mad. They start dive bombing at you. Except the ravens.
Did you see that color on me? Probably no way to take a picture of that thing, huh? It's too fast.
Yeah, yep, they're definitely hunting for bugs. They don't really do any fishing. They can't really perch on the water like your seagulls or your Arctic terns do. Yeah, we can go on a little bit further around this next bend, and then we'll be looking for a landing. These stone seat backs and tray tables in the right position. Storms? You know what?
Say goodbye.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
From storms. There used to be some beavers that